What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday. Jake Waxman, Tal Lava, let two guys talk sports. Let's do this. All right. Last night, I was having a conversation, or I was texting one of my good friends, a man by the name of Miles. We were having a nice conversation. It was a short conversation, but he told me something interesting. He told me, Jake, the Chicago Bears should trade Justin Fields to the Raiders in exchange for Jimmy Garoppolo, and then draft Caleb Williams next year and let him sit a year behind Jimmy G, and then you'll be set at the quarterback position. And also, they should fire him at Eberflus, which I agree. I will say this: while I don't think that's going to happen, that's a scenario that I don't think I would not mind if it actually did happen. Don't get me wrong. Again, disclaimer: I don't think this is going to happen because Bears ownership probably would forbid it. But I do think, building off of what Miles says, the Bears do need to take that kind of action with Justin Fields, because you saw what happened with the Broncos. The Bears gave the Broncos their first win of the season. They were up 28-7 at one point, and then and you know what? Hey, Justin Fields had his best game of his career as a Chicago Bear. He actually had 158 QBR in that game. He was at his best. Finally threw for over 300 yards in a game, and the Bears still lost. You want to know why? And despite two turnovers in the fourth quarter, both by Justin Fields, not his fault. Bears coaching got way too conservative. And then the call on a critical fourth down to go for it instead of take the points, that's what ultimately lost the Bears this game, coaching decisions. So I agree with Miles that Eberflus has got to go. The Bears are probably not going to fire him mid-season, but at the end of the season, he's got to go. And now, once again, the Bears find themselves in tank form. Tank commander, or we're tanking, whether we want it again or not, and it sucks. But my man Miles raised an interesting point. I think that it's something the Bears need to look into. They do need to trade Justin Fields. If they're thinking about going for Caleb Williams, then they need to trade Justin Fields for sure and get as much draft capital as possible. Now, I do like the idea of trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. It all comes down to whether or not the Raiders are up for that, because right now they're 1-3. If it comes to the point where the Raiders decide, all right, we're going to tank for the best draft position possible, then that might happen. Because you have to remember, the Raiders also have Aiden O'Connell, who I think could be an NFL quarterback. And he could be the Raiders quarterback. But of course, I think Justin Fields would easily lock down that starting job if he were traded to the Raiders. But that being said, it would mean the Raiders wouldn't be looking at a quarterback. And of course, the Bears, if they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, again, which I don't think is going to happen, but if they did, that would be the best thing for Caleb Williams if he decides to go to the draft and ends up being the number one pick by the Chicago Bears. By the way, the Bears have the number 1 and 2 picks in this year's draft. So as a Bears, but here's the thing, right now, honestly, as I've said before, nothing is going to change until the Bears owners, their current owners, sell the team to someone who actually cares about football. Because right now, the Bears are the most embarrassing dumpster fire in the history of sports. Can't make this up. But what Miles said, building off of what Miles said, trading Justin Fields should be a huge, huge priority this month. They're not going anywhere, and Justin Fields deserves way, way better. He deserves to be with a team that is going to play to his strengths and put the ball in his hands. And in that game against the Broncos, the Bears took the ball out of Fields' hands. No wonder they lost. It shows they do not believe in it. The Bears clearly don't believe in Justin Fields. So if that's the case, trade him, get as much draft capital as possible, try to get a veteran quarterback that you can start for a season and have Caleb Williams learn under for a year, and then unleash Caleb Williams the following season. Presuming that's the plan the Bears are going with at this point, or that's what's on their mind. So I agree with Miles in the sense that they need to trade Justin Fields. Now, if they can't, I can't imagine they'll be able to get Jimmy Garoppolo, but it would be amazing if they did. But presuming they can't, still though, they need to look for a veteran to trade for and get draft picks in that same said trade. So this is just my thoughts on what the Bears should do going forward. And the conversation that me and Miles were having, the short conversation we had last night about what the Bears should do with Justin Fields. This is what I think overall. And that is where I leave this subject. And now I want to move on to a more positive subject. And by the way, to close that last subject out, love Justin Fields. He deserves better. He deserves to go be with a team that's going to let him excel at the NFL level. Let him be the best version of himself. Now we're going to move on to a more positive subject. The Blackhawks and Connor Bedard. I thought I'd tell you guys kind of, I am thankful to have ESPN Plus. Me and my folks just switched to Hulu, and I am so thankful to have ESPN Plus because this allows me to watch it, because that app allows me to watch every single Blackhawks game. It's really, really nice. So I've been able to watch Connor Bedard make his first 3 unofficial NHL starts. So it's preseason, of course. But overall, here's my thoughts on Bedard and his performance. So far, he looks really, really good. He is doing some pretty good things. Nothing too loud in terms of explosiveness, but you know what? He's getting the feel of the game. He's getting the feel of the pace. You know, I figured it would take it's going to take him time to learn it. You know, this first year, he's only 18. He's very, very fast, skates well. His positioning is great. His defense is underrated. He's solid in the face-off circle, and you know, all that stuff. So those are some of the strengths I've noticed. And you know what? He's got a very good shot. And quite honestly, I see when I'm watching him play these first 3 preseason games, I see both Kane and Taze in this guy, packed into one player. That's Connor Bedard. He has 4 assists in this preseason, which that's really, really good. So this may be a player who actually gets more assists than goals. I'd like that, because assists are underrated. And Taze, when he played for the Blackhawks, he probably had more assists than goals as well. And he's got a wicked shot as well. Finally scored his first NHL goal against the Red Wings in preseason game number 4. Now, excuse me, first 4 preseason games, not 3. They played 4, and the Blackhawks have 2 more. There are plenty of things, of course, that Bedard needs to work on. I'd like to see him take better care of the puck. He's kind of had some turnovers and made some mistakes, but that's going to happen when you're a rookie, and that's something he'll learn the more experience he gets. So plenty of other things to work on, and also just taking the shot when it's available. But then again, this is a Blackhawks issue too. I've known so many Blackhawks players who wait until that perfect lane opens to take the shot. Just take the shot, you know? That's probably my biggest criticism, but there's more good than bad from what I'm seeing with Bedard. And also, he mentions he would like to play better. Personally, I think Connor Bedard is just being too damn humble right now. Like, hey, someone needs to tell him, pat yourself on the back. You're doing well right now. Getting us 4 assists so far in the preseason and 4 preseason games, no small thing. And granted, that first goal of his was an empty net goal, but you got to start somewhere with the scoring. Hopefully, he only gets more and more confident. But, you know, it's going to be a learning curve for him this year. Here's the thing. The Blackhawks are not going to be very good this year. I don't think so. They might be. They're going to be. I do think they'll be improved this year. And of course, now the rebuild is officially beginning because there's no more Kane and Taze. Gonna miss them both. But there'll be some exciting moments for the Blackhawks, and they'll be fun to watch this year, and mainly because of this kid, Connor Bedard. He's got plenty to learn, but you know what? The potential is all there, and it's all coming together. And as he gets experience, he's going to continue to get better. I'm excited to watch this kid play hockey, and feels good, right? Exciting things up ahead for the Blackhawks. This year may not be so good, but there's plenty to look forward to, and fun things, like Connor Bedard. Plenty of things for him to work on, but right now, what I was hoping to see out of him, it's showing up. It's slowly but surely coming together, and I really like what I've seen out of Connor Bedard this preseason. Now, how it translates to the regular season, we will see. But all in all, based on what I've seen so far, I'm really looking forward to watching Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks play hockey this year. I think there's going to be some fun games up ahead, and I'm excited. So, like I said, again, excited for the Blackhawks, but mostly for the progress of Connor Bedard. All right, And finally, all right, Tyler, you might come at me with this one. Tyler, feel free to come at me with this in your text messages, but I'm going to talk about Peacock. And honestly, it's not all positive energy when it comes to Peacock. There's going to be more negative energy. Here's the thing. Okay, first of all, so for those of you who do not know, the Big Ten made a deal with NBC broadcasting rights, or gave them NBC broadcasting rights to both Big Ten football and basketball, or all sports across. So, quite honest, so that means, unfortunately, there will be football and basketball games on Peacock. Now, for the record, my man Tyler has it. I do not. Personally, which means it doesn't come with my Hulu subscription. It does come with those who have Xfinity. But I will say this. All right, I'm not a fan of Peacock, but I'm not going to complain about them. If we have to have college football and basketball games on Peacock, so be it. For the time being, so be it. Maybe it'll grow on me. But here's my issue today. Here's what's really has put me in the wrong mood. It's the games that are being selected onto Peacock. Now, they're getting a few, not every game, but a few games, football and basketball wise. Now, I was taking a look at the college basketball schedule for Purdue, or the TV schedule for Purdue. I noticed, 6 games on Peacock. So, most unfortunate, but I'll figure things out, I guess. And I was looking at, and then some of the games I saw. Purdue and Arizona, which is going to be a top 10 matchup on Peacock. Purdue at Indiana. That one is also going to be on Peacock. The biggest problem I have not right now is not that basketball games are being put on Peacock. It's the games that are being selected for Peacock. The matchups. NBC, why in the good Lord's name did you have to put Purdue at Indiana on Peacock and cut off all access to everyone else? That's one of the biggest rivalries in college hoops. And you're putting it exclusively on Peacock? That is a horrible move. Not everyone's going to have access to it. And keep in mind, not everybody can afford streaming services. Like, I get it. It's the future. But you know what? We need to take things more in stride. And right now, we're going way too fast with the streaming service. We're moving at too fast of a pace for everyone. And then Purdue and Arizona, which could potentially be a top 10 matchup. Not everyone's going to be able to watch that because NBC is putting it on Peacock. Glorious. And for the record, now, I will say this. Good for NBC, but not good for the fans. Even for those who have the Peacock streaming service. And, but I will also say this. The fault is not NBC's. Can you really blame them for trying to make money? The fault belongs to the Big Ten. They're the ones who made that deal with NBC. Like, why couldn't we renew a deal with ESPN? Like, I know they're not the best company right now for broadcasting sports, but my goodness, they gave my Boilermakers quite a bit of attention, especially in the broadcasting deals. But for some reason, no, we forget ESPN. We'd rather just have it on. Now, most of our games on NBC. Now, CBS and Big Ten Network are going to cover a couple games as well as Fox. And why couldn't we just keep them on Big Ten Network? What's wrong with that? You know what? This is what happens when money talks. Simply as that. Money talks, and the average sports fan gets screwed over. Frustrating. And I was only just barely able to watch the Illinois and Purdue football game, which was on Peacock. Me and my dad were just barely able to watch that because against all odds, we were able to stream the whole game through somebody who was putting the picture up through Peacock on YouTube. But who knows if that's not gonna happen every single time. Eventually, NBC is gonna crack down on that. I reckon. But here's the thing: if we're gonna have games on Peacock, so be it. But keep the best matchups. Keep the best games, the best matchups. Keep them off of Peacock. Let's put them on standard television networks and pick the games that nobody's really gonna watch. Okay? What's so hard about that? Just, it's not a good move for the sports fans. And you know what? The blame goes to the Big Ten, who made that deal with NBC. They do not care about their fans. The Big Ten does not care about their fans, period. That is the biggest thing I have to say about this. I do not like it. I mean, I'm not a big fan of like streaming it on platforms. I'm not a big fan of streaming exclusively on platforms that you have to pay for, like whether it's a 1-month plan or a whole year's plan, which can get really expensive. But even worse is when you take some of the best matchups and put them on an exclusive streaming service like Peacock. Not a good move. Disappointed in NBC, but also really disappointed in the Big Ten for this decision. So I'll figure things out, and also it's not just for Purdue fans, but I imagine like Indiana fans are ticked off about it, Arizona fans, and those are two big markets when it comes to college sports, Indiana and Arizona. I'm sure you Michigan fans aren't going to be happy, and Ohio State, by the way, Ohio State and Purdue football game also exclusively on Peacock. Ohio State fans are probably pissed too. So the bottom line is, the best matchups should not be exclusively on Peacock. They should be put on networks where everyone can watch them. The ratings, I can tell you, they are not going to be good. For those kind of games, it's going to decrease the ratings because not everyone can watch. Like the games that draw on the big ratings, those should be on national television, not exclusively on streaming services, okay? Because if you want to maximize revenue and TV ratings, you need to put them on live. You need to put them in the best position possible, and that means through networks, but not the networks' streaming platforms. Through the networks, their main channels themselves. Bad move because it doesn't benefit the fans, and you know what? It's a bet, and you know what? Shame on the Big Ten for negotiating a deal with NBC. Good riddance. All right. All right. On to this day in sports history. And on this day, the 4th of October, 1991, the San Jose Sharks play their first ever NHL game. It would end up being a 4-3 loss in Vancouver. Native Californian Craig Cox scores the club's first goal, while Jeff Hackett makes an impressive 48 saves. All right, sports fans, that is all for this week's Waxon Wednesday. And by the way, I will take questions. If you got sports fans have questions, leave them below, and next week I will try to answer them. All right. Thank you for watching this week's Waxon Wednesday. Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports signing off.